Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. And for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them start and build successful businesses, whether they're operating as a solopreneur or running a very established firm with staff providing quality accounting services. In this, we actually have as a podcast, basically a show dedicated to helping you work on your business, inviting guests to help them explain exactly what it is they're doing to help you actually be the most proficient and successful, profitable accounting firm in your area. Guests ranging from topics with marketing, pricing, client onboarding processes, client retention, training staff, all the various things that you could expect, and so much more. Today, we actually have a guest on the show that I'm excited to have, someone I've known for some time now. James Donovan is someone that I've worked with, and he's someone that actually is very involved in marketing. And so today, we're actually excited to have him on because he's a visionary behind 9-2 Media and Accounting Leads Now. James doesn't just dabble in the digital game. He's mastered the art of securing quality appointments for accounting firms, particularly those offering fractional CFO and tax planning services. While many are chasing leads, James zeroes in on connecting firms with business owners who genuinely need and value their services. With LinkedIn as his primary arena for cultivating authentic relationships, he's also strategically tapping into Meta ads, Google PPC ads, and so many more to add to his advantage. And with that, he can shed a great deal of light on cultivating valuable appointments in today's marketplace. So James, welcome to the show.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, James, I want to get into, first of all, a little bit of your backstory. What got you into marketing specifically for accounting firms?
Yeah, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I started this company 4 years ago after working in marketing and advertising for a couple larger firms in Toronto and overseas while traveling. It started with me in a basement running ads for local companies. Right when the pandemic hit, it was a really tough time to start a marketing company because that's always the first budget that seems to go during a pandemic, or at least my experience going through my one and only pandemic so far.
There you go.
Somehow we it was me transitioned into working with cleaning companies during the pandemic. I thought this was going to be a really wise decision. It worked for a while. And then what I started to notice with someone else I was working closely with was commercial cleaners were restricted to a 40-mile radius. Now, after the pandemic, everyone working remote, there's a huge need for accounting firms, but also the ability to work remotely with clients across the nation. So it was kind of just about falling backwards into the space. There was no real tie. I don't have a background in accounting. I didn't do very well in my accounting course in university for business management. Just happened to now be here working with accounting firms. And I've learned a lot with our clients in the last couple of years. But yeah, there's no, real rhyme or reason how we got here.
Well, I appreciate the backstory. So let's dive into basically the marketing side of things. Where I'd like to begin is a great conversation around the difference between having a quality appointment, let's say, and just having contacts, leads. There's a big distinction between having someone referred to us and we've got a name, we've got a number, and qualifying them. And so let's talk about the difference between just that, the lead, and having a qualified lead or qualified appointment.
Yeah, I think, or a lot of people get hung up on with the term lead and why lead generation companies get such a bad rap, or just people complain about leads, is they're looking at a name and a number, but there's been no interest whatsoever expressed in the service that the person's looking to sell. So I would say the biggest difference is getting that that interest expressed from the lead to actually make them a lead, not just a name and a number, but the name, number, email of someone who said they've raised their hand, hey, I want to buy, or I'm interested in what you have to sell. So that's what I would say is the biggest distinction. And a way that we've been able to help that with our clients is simply by asking those qualification questions prior to an appointment. So we get someone who's interested, but then confirming that they actually are a decision maker, they're making X amount of revenue, and they're interested in a variety of services that our client would be offering. That's a huge difference between here's a name and a phone number.
I appreciate that distinction because there is a difference between I have a contact, somebody that's a name, a number in my CRM, somebody that I'm aware of that I'm attempting to reach out to, versus someone, here's an individual that I'm interacting with. They've, communicated with me, I've with them. There's some discussion or dialogue going back and forth. There's some expressed interest or qualifying of them to say that they're a good quality contact. There's just a differing level of lead versus qualified appointment, if you will. So let's move into that appointment side of things. Now I've got this contact, somebody that I've interacted with, but there's a difference between I'm in communication with, or I know of them, they know of me, and now actually getting to the point where there's an appointment, a scheduled time to speak and actually discuss one another's needs and interests and services. What is that transition from being a lead to an appointment? What does that look like?
Yeah, so on our side, a lot of that is going through LinkedIn, and we can get into that a little bit more after. But regardless where the lead is coming from, again, once someone has expressed any sort of interest in that service that's being promoted, walking them through that qualification process to make sure, hey, do I want to invest 15, 20, 30 minutes of my time speaking further with this person? Is it going to be conducive for both parties involved? So, like I mentioned there a little bit before, what we're doing is either, hey, here's our calendar link. Please grab a time that works best for you. Or we're calling. So if we're sending that out on behalf of our clients, here's their calendar link, or we're making those calls for them, and we're going through the same questions. So, are you the owner or decision maker within the company? That's really important. And again, it all comes down to what you need in order to make it a qualified appointment for you, and then just ask those questions. If you have a minimum revenue number for who you want to be working with, just ask in there, what is the annual revenue of your company? With a lot of the companies we're working with for tax planning, they want to know the structure of someone's business. Are you running a sole prop, LLC, S Corp? So we're asking that question as well. And then,
Very
like I
good.
mentioned, giving those drop down lists of services. So not only, hey, the person might be interested in talking to us, but what are they actually looking for? Is it fractional CFO work? Do they need help with their tax planning? Maybe they need a bookkeeper, monthly accounting, or something else. So if you can get more insight before that appointment, that's what I would call a really qualified lead or appointment, because it's like you said, it's not just a contact anymore. You have a background on what this person needs.
Well, you're definitely defining the difference between an appointment and a qualified appointment, and that's what I really appreciate is the fact that we have an intentional meeting with a very specific purpose, and that's one of the things that I think really elevates that from just a conversation to an appointment with a qualified candidate that we might be able to eventually turn into a customer. So that's wonderful. Now, you mentioned LinkedIn a moment ago. There are a variety of platforms, a lot of them out there that we can engage in. I think there's a lot of distractions. Why did you mention LinkedIn? Why is that one of your primary areas of getting that organic engagement with the client, a potential client?
The reason we're using LinkedIn and the way we found it to be so successful is that LinkedIn is meant to network between business owners, primarily. Obviously, a lot of other individuals can use LinkedIn, but kind of from the top down, anyone who's taking their business serious, they're on LinkedIn. They're looking to network with other people who they can work with, or other people who can help their business. So by reaching out to people on LinkedIn every day, setting up your profile as essentially your sales landing page to promote your service, your brand, it's an incredibly powerful platform without having to dump a pile of money into paid ads on Google or Facebook. You can get a lot of quality conversations and appointments coming from, reaching out to 100 people a day just on LinkedIn, as long as you're reaching out to your ideal audience.
Now, that's obviously a proactive type thing. What could we be doing on LinkedIn to be seen as an expert, somebody that is a qualified person that offers valued services? Are there any strategic things that we could be doing to position ourselves appropriately for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So setting up your profile would be number one. So professional looking profile picture, a cover photo that is speaking to your audience, whether that's, I help HVAC companies reduce their taxes by X amount per year, or whatever that thing is that your company thrives in, that should be known within your cover photo, within your bio on your page. having your contact information there so people know how to get in touch with you, commenting on different posts, really hanging out where your ideal clients are going to be. There's a new thing LinkedIn has put out as of late where there's different insights. So you can leave your comments on prompted questions from some AI now within LinkedIn. The more
Yeah.
and more content you're dropping on LinkedIn while building your network, the more organic your audience starts seeing your insight all over LinkedIn. And that's a really solid way to build your brand.
I like that. Now, one of the things in addition to the profile is the engagement. And one of the things that I've learned, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is to be very giving in the idea of what and why certain things are important as it relates to the services that you offer, but not going beyond the what and the why, leaving the how for the paying customers. They're paying for that. But the what and the why, it's very educational. It helps position us as the expert. And in doing so, it elevates the need for the services that you're offering simply because the customer gets to a point where they start to see the value in what it is you're doing. And all of a sudden, they're interested at some point of reaching out and connecting and actually having a conversation about how do we make this possible? How can you help in that area? Does that make sense? Does that resonate with what you're talking about?
Yeah, it does. It's really just adding that value everywhere because the more value you can add for free to everyone, it really enhances now what your paid service is, what comes along with your paid service. So by dropping comments on if you're working strictly with, again, I'm kind of going back to HVAC or even construction, if you're commenting on a lot of different posts within the construction world and just dropping different insight from your expertise, people are going to go look at your page. They're going to lean to you as they start seeing all of the insight and value you're sharing. And that does a lot of the heavy lifting when they do reach out and evidently say, hey, I've seen a lot of your stuff recently. Can we get on a call and talk because I may need your help? A lot of that hard work has already been done from all that engagement that's been building up in the background.
Yeah, very, very good. Okay. Now, in addition to traditional bookkeeping, accounting, tax type services, I know one of the things that you're working a lot with is the idea of accounting firms, tax firms offering more advisory type services, the fractional CFO, part-time CFO, advisory type work. What is it that really has been gaining traction there, and how have you really played into helping people get those types of clients?
Yeah, it's something that I think many business owners, they just don't know what they don't know about their own company, their own finances. And that's where the clients we're working with now who are offering fractional CFO services step in. They're able to show them some of the blind spots or gaps that they may not have known existed within their company, show them how they can step in, increase their bottom line, or reduce certain expenses that they may have been blind to in the past. It's really just kind of poking that pain point to different business owners and letting them know and piquing their interest that, like, hey, by having someone step in to look at this stuff, there's a whole world of opportunities that may be available to you. But if you never have that conversation, you're just going to continue running the way things are. And it may be fine the way things are running now, but I don't think it's hurting any business bringing in a fractional CFO and someone who can give a much better overview on what's taking place inside their company.
Well, the one thing I like about the fractional CFO, the advisory space, whether it's accounting advisory or tax advisory services, it's definitely more the creative and strategic side of what we do as accounting professionals. And what I find is that it's the sexier part of what it is we have to talk about online. If you're talking about bookkeeping and tax preparation, the end client doesn't really see that as being an interesting topic, and it's nothing that they're going to be curious about or want to dive into. But if you can start talking about fractional CFO and advisory services, tax advisory services, and then different strategies that can be taken there and the savings that can come from it and the different things that we can do to improve the profitability of our businesses. Now you're in that creative space where the client is more inclined to actually pay attention to the content being provided, and it's clearly going to position you as the expert. Therefore, they're going to be more interested in meeting with you and finding out more how you can apply these things that you're talking about online in their specific business or situation. So I love how this is going on. But then that begs the question of saturated engagement. You know, there's sometimes a lot of customers out there that are just saying, I'm getting a lot of noise. There's a lot of information out there. How do you help your clients stand out in that noise?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think definitely with messaging on LinkedIn to stand out from the noise. everyone who's listening, they've all received it. You can tell it's hi first name, and then there's a novel of a templated message. There's been no engagement there, even if someone's looking for fractional CFO or tax planning services. So it's really just about keeping like the messaging style short to pique the interest of that business owner to get the conversation started. Coming in really early, pitching right away, like that's what everyone's done on LinkedIn. That's why I think a lot of people may brush off LinkedIn or they don't like it. But if we can just help our clients stand out a bit by being really, really short and like, again, that interest piquing, try to get some curiosity out of the business owner. I find that goes a long way because once we can get the conversation started, and like you said, they can get in there and start telling people all these new strategies on how they can save money. And it's a different style conversation than let's look at the books and something that may seem a little more vanilla to them. As long as we can get that conversation started, they're usually pretty solid to run with it and get those deals closed because they're really good at adding that value in. It's just on the front end, maybe getting that interest started, getting that conversation started is where some of that difficulty may lie.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, there's a big debate, or a lot of times people are asking the value or difference between organic versus paid strategies. Clearly we talked about LinkedIn advertising. Many define that as being very expensive. You got the organic approach with the posts and so forth. You've got obviously the LinkedIn connecting processes where you're trying to build your connection, your lists, and engage with them offline with the messengers. What are your thoughts about just those different strategies and the effectiveness of each of them?
Yeah, LinkedIn ads themselves, I find they're really expensive. I'd say they're one of the more expensive platforms to run paid ads on. They're really difficult to convert. I really do like the organic approach on LinkedIn because anything you're doing, engagement, sending out connections, messages, that stuff's not disappearing. It's living in people's inboxes, whether they sign in the next hour or they sign in within a month. So that stuff compounds, which is really cool. Paid ads, if you're going through Meta, they work. There's a massive audience on Meta. So like Facebook and Instagram, they can just get really expensive, especially if you don't know what you're doing or you're just getting started out. So I've always liked LinkedIn for the firms that maybe don't have a massive marketing budget because you can still get really qualified appointments coming through. I always say the volume is going to be a lot lower on LinkedIn just because you only have so much allotted outreach you're allowed per profile, but the quality is very high. And of course, you can dump a pile of money into ads, but it's either a really quick way to learn what's not working and you spent a lot of money, or it is a quick way to ramp up. It really depends on what your appetite for risk looks like when it comes to growing your firm.
Well, one of the things I like about this conversation is the fact that I'm oftentimes talking to accounting professionals, and there's a question about how they can leverage LinkedIn to grow their business, whether or not this is a great way to find clients, especially remote clients. How do they engage with them? What is it that they can do to be more proactive in their lead generation? And what you're sharing here, there are different strategies that clearly are effective in at least trying to be more proactive, getting these contacts and nurturing them. So my next question is do you have like a success story you could quickly share with us as to what it is you've experienced as you've worked with your clients?
Yeah, so we have a number of them. Most recently, one of our I'd say top performing clients right now. Again, going back to the low volume on LinkedIn, we're probably bringing in maybe like 5 or 6 appointments a month for him right now, which is not massive by any stretch, but the size of the deals he's closing for them are really stacking up. So he's promoting fractional CFO services. I think he's probably closing around 80% or so right now, just because, again, the volume's not high, but the people we're putting in front of him have a need for these services. He's able to show them the value. And I think within the last 6 months or so of us working together, he's added about 40K of new recurring revenue because he's offering his services at anywhere on the low end from like 1,500 a month as an advisor, upwards of 6K a month. So the people are on LinkedIn. There's a lot of clients to be found there. It's just consistently knocking on enough of the right doors day after day to have those conversations with people.
The thing I like about this is we're talking about something that you can ultimately not only just figure out, but then use as a turnkey process to just month after month after month continue with, and it will just nurture the people that you have contacts with. It'll engage with those that are ready. And then you just have this trickle of individuals coming through as qualified appointments that you can then begin working with. And I loved the example you gave of the fractional CFO services, because clearly there's a lot to be said for a client that's coming on paying as much as $1,000, $1,500, $6,000 a month. And that's beautiful. So that's very good. So I'm going to change gears on this, because this is something I was also excited to talk about. You're one of those individuals that I'm familiar with that has actually taken advantage of technology and has chosen to actually work offsite or remotely. And you've taken it to a whole nother level. A lot of people will talk about expats and such that travel around the world and work remotely in different areas for periods of time and then move on. And I know you're up in Canada, but during the winter months, you've gone south. I remember years ago when we were talking, you went for an 11-day stay and stayed 4 weeks. And I know you're scheduling something longer now. Tell us about that. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's always been a dream of mine to work for myself, and now I've built a really amazing team and the ability to travel around the world and do it at the same time. So yeah, when we were speaking there before, Roger, I went down to Mexico. It was supposed to be an 11-day trip, turned into 4 weeks, and thought, wow, this is pretty cool. It's much more enjoyable working from the rooftop pool or going to the beach after work and not shoveling snow in February. So last year, same thing, decided to plan it a little bit better. Came home for the spring and summer months. And then in January, went down to Mexico and traveled around South America for a bit. And as long as there's reliable internet, nothing really changes for me. And doing it again this winter. So if I have the opportunity to miss the cold Canadian winters and go, put my feet in the sand, I'm choosing that every winter.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're not the only one I've had this conversation with. I've coincidentally spoken to others who have chosen to travel quite a bit. And I know some that are actually families, husband, wife, children, and they'll go to a place for a month, maybe 6 weeks, perhaps 3 months, and then they migrate to another area. And some are coming back to the States and then leaving again. And whatever the lifestyle, I just think the functionality, the ability of being able to provide accounting services remotely or do what you're doing remotely is quite liberating. It's something to be said that we have a lifestyle that if we wanted to, we can dream that this fictitious thing that everybody thought was this elusive, I couldn't really obtain it, is clearly available. I mean, people are doing it. You're doing it. You're going out there, you're living the dream. And most importantly, you're doing so very successfully. So I'm very pleased to be able to share that story, because I'm kind of inspired by what you're doing. And my intents next year are to do a little bit more traveling myself and enjoying some of the benefits that are afforded us via technology. So this is really good. So James, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up. And as I wrap this up, I'm going to definitely come back to you for a closing thought. But as I wrap it up, I do want to point out to my listeners that if you'd like to find out more about James's services and how it is he's helping individuals actually get qualified appointments with firms, with companies that would be interested in bookkeeping, accounting, CFO-related services, by all means, check out James and go to the episode description and see what he has available for you as an offer to really not only take advantage of his services, speak with him about what he can do, what it is he can do for you, but more importantly, check out the episode descriptions for a savings there that you'll definitely not want to pass up. Now, as a conversation piece, one of the things that I was looking forward to as a summary was that conversation that we had about the difference between having a contact and having a lead, and more importantly, having that lead become a qualified appointment. Many of us are actually striving to have these engaged conversations with potential customers. We'd like to have those appointments, but wouldn't it be nice to actually have qualified appointments that have purpose and meaning behind the actual meeting and intent? And with that, being able to qualify those appointments based on what are their needs and what are their current situations so that we can better prepare and address whatever their situation is. So I like that part of the conversation. I also liked how we went a little bit deeper into LinkedIn. I know that comes up quite often as a conversation of where within all these social media platforms should I be focusing my time and my energy? Clearly, there's those things that we can do for leisure, and wherever it is that we're spending our time leisurely, that's fine. But to intentionally find a business platform, and LinkedIn is clearly known as such, and leveraging it, that's powerful. But what James shared as to insights on how we can go about doing that, how we can be a little bit more purposeful and intentful with our time spent on LinkedIn is great. And clearly his service is helping accounting firms take it to another level and actually be more intentional with what it is they're trying to do online and find those clients, especially remote clients, in that effort. And I really appreciated the success story only because I know of James's success. I'm glad he was able to share one of those amazing stories, simply because as we're all trying to grow our firms, it's nice to know that this is a feasible way, a practical way to get the clients we each deserve. So James, wonderful conversation, great insights, and I appreciate you're able to contribute to the discussion here as I work with so many accounting professionals wanting to grow and build their business. And I think this has been a good discussion. So do you have a closing thought, something you'd like to end with?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much, Roger. Really appreciate being on here and having this conversation with you again. I would just say to anyone who's listening, who's looking to grow their firm, get on LinkedIn. The most underrated tool, in my opinion, is Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. You can get a free month trial with it through LinkedIn. And then after that, it's only $100 a month. The power it gives you to reach out to your ideal audience, target who you want to get in front of, it's absolutely amazing. If you, at the bare minimum, spent 30 minutes a day just sending out connections and messages to who your ideal client is, you'll be amazed at how many solid conversations and appointments you start having about your own services. So there's a lot of other things you can do on the front end and the back end to make it all come together and be a little bit more effortless. But easiest thing, 30 minutes a day, just reach out to people through Sales Navigator, your ideal client, and you'll have some really quality appointments on your calendar.
Love it, love it. The more you know which is your ideal client, where your niche is, the easier it is to find the people you're trying to target and connect with them and have ideal communication or conversations with them on the backside, in the messaging section. So well said. Great advice. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. If you haven't already subscribed to, definitely do so. Subscribe. Set the reminders so that you can get notified as to every week when this comes out. And then feel free to go back and check some of the previous episodes, binge listen those. We've had some amazing guests on with wonderful topics. In fact, if you'd like to, you can go to universalaccounting.com, and in the navigation, you'll find podcast. It's there that we've actually grabbed some highlights, put together some playlists of favorites. So if you'd look for topics related to marketing or mental health or tech stack, you can definitely go in and find some of the conversations that are specific to those and definitely dive into those even deeper. The other thing I would like to encourage you to do is definitely go to universalaccounting.com to check out the free resources. We have a variety of free resources available for accounting professionals to help you work on your business. Check out those, from free ebooks to various free courses and programs and webinars that you'd want to take advantage of, and I invite you to do so. The other that I'd like to mention is GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference that we put together for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. It's a conference that we invite you to attend to hear from the experts off of the stage, where they come and present various things that we need to know in a timely manner, things that we need to be up to date with as we're running our businesses. You also get to interact with your peers, collaborate with them, make some great connections, and in fact, oftentimes find ways to grow your business in a collaborative way. And so I encourage you to come and make those connections around the country and in fact around the world, as many individuals come from various places to actually work on their business, learning from their peers. And then lastly, it's the team here at Universal Accounting Center. Meet those of the people that I work with that are committed to your success, that can help you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting. And with all that being said, obviously, if you have any questions about the things we've discussed today or would like to learn more, check out universalaccountingschool.com. And there you'll find information regarding various programs and resources that we have to help you work on your business, train your staff, get the skills and the confidence you need to be the premier accounting firm in your area. And you can also give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. Always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is Universal. Take care and have a great day, and be safe out there.